We buy these somebody's every day. I know you're right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Dana Andrews, author of Sons of Suicide and the Journals of Taylor Hart. This is the SOS Weekly #1. If some of you guys might remember the Danimal Weeklies, we did about 40 episodes a while back. We're starting a new series through a conversation with my friend that had spurred this on. He had pointed out to me that there's a lot of valuable content in the first book, Sons of Suicide, that simply a lot of people hadn't gotten access to or even discovered, largely because it hadn't been presented in accessible or more popular media like videos. And I had done so well with some of the videos from the Danimal Weeklies that he had the idea to begin a series with these, like little bits and pieces of insights relating to the book. So without getting very long-winded into the history, just to kind of get like a very brief recap, anybody who's read the book knows that when I was 11, my mother committed suicide. She drowned herself in Lake Michigan. And both before and after, this led to a very interesting series of events and things happening in my life. So I was 11 when she had passed, and I had just graduated 5th grade. So I was still very young, adolescent age. And I had about that summer to recover, so it was about 3 months to sort of stabilize, if you could call it anything like that. And one of the things, and this is the first topic of the series, was fighting at school. It's no secret that, and perhaps I suppose still to this day in middle school, that one of the jokes commonly referred to is like your mom, insert like really corny phrase or very like hurtful statement. And I suppose hurtful then more than now. I suppose at that point that was still very raw for me. And having my mom just had to commit suicide, that presented a very large issue for me, because I ran into this conflict where on one hand it seemed unreasonable to simply want to like violently assault someone whether or not they knew what had happened to my mom. And then on the other hand, I felt wholly responsible for defending like her memory and not letting disrespect go unpunished. Like I felt very responsible in that way. So it put me in a very strange spot. It was very just very conflicting. Like for instance, I can give you an example. Perhaps like one of the more violent instances was there's an individual. I was running in my gym class, it was gym period, and he was running by me. And I knew the kid. I won't say his name. Call him Mark. Mark was running by me, and I heard him say something, like just very quickly, like as he turned around and ran by me. And it sounded like I fucked your mom last night. And he knew, was very well aware of what had happened recently in the past summer. And so I ran faster to catch up to him and screaming, like, what did you just say? What did you just say? And like say it again, like daring him, because I almost just didn't believe what he had said at that point. And he did. He turned around and said, I fucked your mom last night, or something to that extent. And so I immediately like tackled him into the wall. I began like pummeling the back of his head with my fist and choking him out. I just had my arm like wrapped around his neck, and like it wasn't something I had time to think about. It literally, like you've heard people like referring to like fits of rage where they simply like black out and don't know what they're doing. I can't say that I blacked out. I do remember doing it, but I didn't feel like I had conscious control over myself. Like I was simply so enraged that like there was no stopping like what I was about to do. And I just continued choking him and pummeling the back of his head until more people noticed and a teacher ran over and separated us. And at that point I was like in such an emotional state that I simply grabbed my gym teacher, and he was wearing a soft white cotton t-shirt, I remember, and I just remember like bawling into his shirt. So I was just wrecked at that point. And I don't know what happened to the kid. I suppose he was on the ground or they were helping him in some fashion. Obviously I went to the principal's office and I'm sure this presented very awkward situations for them, because on one hand I'm breaking like rules and policies and things, but on the other hand it's like very well justified. So they did have like an incredibly difficult time punishing me. And my dad, I love him to death, he would always come in and defend me like 100%. He would always sit like, one, I was so like thoroughly provoked, and like comparatively what I had done to the kid was like mild. Like, I mean, he didn't have to go to the hospital or anything to that extent. He simply had turned quite blue and his head was probably hurting significantly. And so I can't remember I think I served like 2 detentions maybe for that. But so my advice is, getting around to like what this means to anybody who's like a relative has recently committed suicide or died, that I guess it obviously applies more to mothers in that instance, was like, what should you do? Like what is like the proper course of action? And honestly, looking back, I can't say I regret acting out in any way. as I got a little older and a little bit more tolerant, my rule tended to be if they didn't know, I would simply inform them and warn them. And at most times they would back down. They would say, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I'll never say anything like that again. And usually it was okay. Occasionally they wouldn't show any sign of respect after that, and I would, like, you have to do whatever you're about to do. Like, I would simply, like, the fight would ensue, and I don't even mean this like a pompous way. Like, I would usually win. Like, I would usually win that fight. And I would encourage that, honestly. If you're going to give someone an opportunity to, like, recant a statement like that, and they simply don't, and they use it to further provoke you, I would obliterate that person, and I wouldn't feel bad about it. And I haven't fought in a long time over that. It hasn't happened. It happened a lot in middle school and high school. But so I guess anybody's going through that, I'd say I'm honestly, like, in one way encouraging you to, like, defend the memory of people that have died if you've given someone, like, a reasonable chance to apologize for something that they've said. And use your best judgment. If you think someone doesn't mean anything, like, sincerely like, hurtful towards you, give them the benefit of the doubt. But on the other hand, if someone is using it to further provoke you, and they may already know, like, your circumstance, I would not hesitate in fighting. That's, like, how I always treated the matter, and that's how I'll continue to treat it. So take it at what you will. I felt, and I'll just very quickly get into the implications of that, because on one hand, I feel like I always had the experience that if I didn't take action, I had to cope with this sort of guilt or how to best word. I don't know. I felt like it was a disgrace to my mom in a lot of ways. So I felt like if I didn't take action, there's emotional repercussions on my end. Whereas especially as a minor, I guess that's important too. Under 18, when I was fighting, the legal or, like, school punishments were laughable. I served numerous suspensions. 3-day suspensions were like a vacation at that point. That's a joke. Like, unless you're talking about seriously, like, grievously wounding somebody, which I can't say I'd recommend, but obviously in that sort of circumstances, obviously possible. The reward, or suppose not the reward, but the sort of moral obligation, I feel, far outweighs the punishment you might receive. That was my experience, but, again, always apply logic and reason to that if at all possible. But I do understand, and I did experience, like, both ends of that. So that's my story for that's the first SOS Weekly #1. There'll be more topics coming that are like, even more in detail described in the book. Like, that's one of the stories actually I've laid out, and there's, like, it's all sort of portrayed throughout that story in Sons of Suicide. But stay tuned. Next week videos will be coming out, like, every Tuesday or Wednesday. Those are my 2 days off now, so that's when I'll be doing these. Please, like, comment, shoot me any questions. I guess I'm sure some people will disagree. Like, they think violence is certainly never a course of action. I'm not opposed to hearing that side of you either. But on the other hand, I feel like it is reasonable in certain applications. So if you agree, disagree, do your thing. I'd love to hear from you guys. Have a great day. Shoot me an email. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.